Who's ready? I'm gonna get my hell yeah in Martin Luther King Jr.'s, but DMX died on this, as we went into the weekend. And, I can remember when you hit her, I'm coming. When you hit her, I remember y'all been eating long enough now. Stop being greedy. Let's keep it real, partner. Give to the needy. My ribs is touchy, so don't make me wait. I remember the DMX when he first came out. They did a thing on Rough Riders on, I think it was BT, one of them. They were sharing their story, right? He shared a story, y'all, get this, of how somebody he trusted, number one, his mother abused him like a dog. I mean, she treated him like for real dirt. Watch the Rough Riders thing. This is before he died. We didn't know he was gonna die, so I was watching it. Man, my heart went out to him, and I kind of understood him more. His mother abused him, I think, like tied him to a bed sometime. I mean, treated him like a dog. He ends up in foster homes, stuff like that. And so he roamed the streets like a normal street kid. And he roamed the streets because he got this fascination with dogs and stray dogs, right? When he's 14, a guy he looked up to slips him what we used to call pre-moles, a mole, with, weed laced with crack. He didn't know it. So he slipped it. It was heartbreaking. And so he slipped it to him, turned him out on crack, right? So imagine being a 14-year-old that you really haven't fully developed physically, mentally, emotionally, in other areas. You already got all the other baggage from abuse and all that, and your own mother. The scripture says without natural affection, your own mother don't show you affection. So you got all that. And as you're going through, it was good. As you're going through that, you got all these different changes and challenges. And you would see this tug of war battle between good and evil, light and dark. And addiction is a crazy thing. This is why I want to encourage somebody. Somebody reached out to me the other day about addiction. Addiction is a crazy thing because addiction will bring a good person down. And those of us who lived through the crack era, I mean, we saw people become something. We saw good girls go bad. We saw guys that, were decent guys that had heads on their shoulders end up on crack. We saw guys that we knew become brutal simply because they're in the drug trade, and that goes along with that. So, so to see his tug of war, and he would pray, and he was, that kind of back and forth. Let me just say this for the record. Everybody's relationship with God is their own personal relationship with him. And you don't know what God is doing with somebody. And you don't know the true sincerity, purity, or motives of a person's heart. We can judge, we can throw stones, we can talk, you ain't God. And you've never been to heaven. You understand what I'm saying? That's what's amazing to me. We do as best as we can to live up to what we know and what we see about God, what we know about God, what he's laid out in the scripture. We follow that and we teach it. But at the end of the day, y'all, I think God is a little bit more merciful than we've been led to believe. Let me say this. Sometimes it's religious people who are worse than worldly people. Don't forget it was religious people who killed Jesus. It wasn't people who was drinking, turning up. Them ain't the people who killed Jesus. It was people who were insecure and uncomfortable with this young, I'm gonna say it, nice looking ministers, appeal and impact, and they killed him. I'm just put it out there. They didn't like the fact that Jesus was doing ministry. They killed him. This was religious people. The Pharisees, and they paid for him to get hit. Jesus said, you so worried about the speck in your brother's eye. Why don't you worry about the log hanging out the side of your face? You're worried about somebody else. You don't know what a person is saying or doing in their final moments. Let me tell y'all something. I shared this with y'all. I would be getting high. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I would be getting high. And I'd be taking weed, and the church knows this, so it ain't no secret. I don't get high now, so I can talk about this. I'd be getting high, and I'd be crying. This was right as God was pulling me out, and he was working on me. I'd be getting high. I would be crying. I couldn't kick my addiction. I'd throw the weed out. Watch this. The next morning, I'd be driving in my car looking for where I threw that weed at. You understand what I'm saying? So when you see somebody like DMX, I know that struggle because it's like, I don't want to do this. I know I gotta, so you see him praying and you see him doing all of this, and it's coming from a place inside of him where his soul is crying out for help. And I think if we did a better job of caring for people instead of worrying about their hang-ups, we get so caught up with people's habits that we forget they're human. We get so caught up in the habits that we overlook the human. Oh God, somebody type this out, I'm gonna pray. We get so caught up in the habit and we define people by the thing, by the sin, by the issue, by the hang up. We forget they're human. And what happens is when you detach a person from their humanity and their habit, what you do is you reduce them to just a habit. Oh, you talking about dope fiend, Chris? I mean, no, he's more than a dope fiend. That's somebody's child. That's somebody's son. That's somebody's father. That's somebody's brother. He's more than, you feel what I'm saying? I want to encourage y'all on today. Y'all, we got to spread love. We got to show more encouragement. You give grace to get grace.